From B-movies that are so bad they're good, to failed blockbusters, bad CGI is noticeable in every type of flick. But which movies are the worst offenders? Air Force One ruins what should be an exciting climax with some CGI that's even worse than a plane crash itself. Sure, CGI was still finding its groove in the 90s, but that doesn't excuse the smoky-looking water and see-through airplane. However, when it comes to top-notch effects work, you can always turn to the Bond franchise for the best of the best. Unless that movie is Die Another Day and 007 is riding a tsunami. Maybe that's why the Bond franchise mostly sticks to practical effects these days. Even Indiana Jones has been guilty of letting us down in the technical department. From Raiders of the Lost Ark to The Last Crusade, Indy's adventures used to be associated with masterful filmmaking. Then Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came along and ruined everything, with its over-reliance on CGI that stood out like an eyesore. The movie even made monkeys look bad, and those rascals are adorable. If you thought those monkeys looked weird, wait until you get a load of this next set of crazy creatures. Horror movies use lots of CGI to create monsters and other scary baddies. Unfortunately, some of these terrifying foes give viewers nightmares for the wrong reasons. In some cases, it's because the budgets are so low that the filmmakers need to use clip art. That's right, I'm looking at you, Birdemic, shock and terror. Then you have movies like Mega Shark vs. Giant Octopus, which use bad CGI as their selling point. But here's the thing, people. Even intentional bad CGI looks awful.
Holy shit!
That said, we can give Birdemic and Mega Shark vs. Giant Octopus a pass because they never really set out to be good movies. But it's hard to forgive those pesky mainstream Hollywood flicks that should know better. If you thought The Last Shark looked bad, wait until you get a load of this CGI monstrosity in Deep Blue Sea.
First, we're gonna seal off this.
Dwayne Johnson might be the biggest star in Hollywood these days, but did you know that he got his start by appearing as a jarring digital abomination in The Mummy Returns? This was back when movies hadn't quite figured out how to superimpose actors' faces onto their digital beasties yet. So chalk it up as a product of its time. Still, the end results look like cutscenes from PS2 video games. See for yourself. Some of the worst instances of bad CGI are in movies that should know better. An American Werewolf in London is widely regarded as a horror classic. Its practical effects have stood the test of time. You'd think that the sequel would try to live up to that legacy, right? Speaking of iconic legacies, the Wolfman is another furry creature who's known for its memorable look. At least that was the case until Van Helsing decided to give the good boy a cartoonish makeover in a live-action movie. In the movie's defense, however, every CGI creature stood out for the wrong reasons. The same can be said about Let the Right One In, which let one terrible CGI scene ruin what is otherwise a perfect horror flick. CGI is often used to create worlds that are unlike anything here on Earth, which is why sci-fi filmmakers have turned to it time and time again. When it's used well, CGI can transport us to other planets with fascinating creatures that feel real, or it can give us the 90s Lost in Space remake. In this one, Matt LeBlanc shares screen time with a monkey that looks like it just hopped out of a Saturday morning cartoon. But at least Lost in Space gave us bad CGI from the start. The filmmakers didn't exactly make a perfect movie, then undo all of their hard work because they got access to some shiny new tools. The same can't be said about the legendary George Lucas. When Star Wars A New Hope was re-released in the 90s, Lucas thought, hey, what if we take Jabba the Hutt, who was perfect before, and make him crap this time? And that's what happened. If Jabba didn't mention Han there, you'd swear he was addressing the filmmakers who redesigned him. But it seems George was more interested in experimenting with special effects than delivering good movies around that time. Heading into the prequel trilogy, he set out to create a special effects extravaganza for the ages. He succeeded in many ways, too. The prequels revolutionized cinematic technology for sure. At the same time, they also went overboard. That's why the movies look like they can't decide whether they want to be live action or animation. The Battle of Naboo and The Phantom Menace sums it up in a nutshell.
Ouch time!
Granted, that's a complex battle sequence involving aliens and droids, so you can understand why they blew their load with the digital animations. But the prequel trilogy used far too much CGI for everything. Heck, even the fruit in Attack of the Clones was weird. There's a case to be made that there are worse uses of CGI use out there, but few represent the creepy, uncanny valley effect quite like the Star Wars prequels. Of course, some of the more recent movies don't fare much better. Remember the dead actors in Rogue One? Peter Cushing and Princess Leia were brought back from the grave for this one, and that polarized fans.
What is it they've sent us?
Help.
This is the creepiest type of CGI, as it's clear we aren't watching real human beings. This Leia is a digital zombie, and using Carrie Fisher's likeness after her passing opens the door to some moral dilemmas. If Star Wars can feature bad CGI, it can happen to any franchise. Even some of the most popular fantasy sagas out there have fell victim to the trend. We all love Harry Potter here at OSSA Movies, but let's be honest, the Sorcerer's Stone would be better without the troll scene. The visual effects team faced a very difficult task in bringing a giant troll to life. They had to seamlessly integrate the creature with the human actors, which wasn't easy in the year 2000. The scene could have turned out much worse, but the troll looks like he belongs in a video game, and that's not what you want to see in a tentpole blockbuster. At least the Harry Potter franchise spent time in that sequence, though. The Mortal Kombat Annihilation effects team didn't even have time to finish the CGI in their movie. After a rough cut of the movie tested well with one test audience, the studio just decided to release it in that form. And, well... if you thought that creature was adorable, wait until you see its buddy. But hey, this was 1997, and bad, unfinished CGI monsters were all the rage. We can thank Spawn for that. That being said, even some of the more popular and respectable superheroes have experienced shoddy CGI makeovers. Ang Lee, who helped revolutionize technology with Gemini Man, just couldn't care less about making the unjolly green giant look good in Hulk. What should have been the most impressive version of the Hulk at the time came out looking more like the amazing Bulk.
Hell is that?
Well, it ain't Barney the Purple Dinosaur.
However, when it comes to terrible CGI in a superhero movie from the 2000s, Catwoman is the worst offender. None of Halle Berry's movements as Gotham's favorite feline crusader are natural, and you can spot the computer generation a mile away. The good news is that superhero movies have advanced so much that you rarely see bad CGI these days. Occasionally, though, one or two of them will slip up. Like that time in Justice League where they decided to mess with Superman's face for no apparent reason.
You won't let me live. You won't let me die.
I mean, was this even necessary? Who looked at Henry Cavill's jaw and decided that it had to be tampered with? And that's why everyone wanted the Snyder Cut. If you want to see Henry Cavill at his most natural and handsome, be sure to check out our video on reasons to watch The Witcher.